welcome back to Uncorked Crime. It's Amelia.
And Kelly. Unfortunately, this week we don't have Megan with us. Her and her boyfriend had to leave town for a family emergency.
Yes.
Everyone is home, but we're thinking and praying for them.
Yes, yes.
So today, since we don't have Megan, we have a special guest visitor.
Woo!
Amelia, do you want to introduce?
Today we have, drum roll, Jordan Latard.
Thank you for having me on today. I appreciate it. I don't think I'll be able to fill the shoes of Megan, but I'll be a good listener for it.
Great, that's all we ask for.
But we do have a few other questions for you, Jordan.
All right, let's hear it.
We figured it's best, since we did a rapid fire for our listeners to get to know us, we'll do a mini rapid fire so our listeners can get to know Jordan.
Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, go, Amelia.
Okay, what is your favorite movie of all time?
Of all time, it would have to be Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. It's the third one.
Oh, okay.
In the trilogy, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you were a superhero, what would your powers be?
The ability to stop and fast forward and rewind time.
So, like, click.
Yes.
Oh,
It ended very badly for him, so.
I forgot about that
There was
movie.
an old movie like Clock Stoppers or something like that. I think it might have been a Disney movie. He had a watch.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, that's what made me think of it. Click is just an off-brand of it.
Yeah, I figured.
Okay, what is your favorite beverage?
Liquor or like
Well, when
We'll
we
do
did
non-alcoholic and alcoholic.
When we did ours, we listed like our favorite beer, our favorite wine, and like our favorite mixed drink.
Cocktail.
But like, yeah, a cocktail. But let's say, what's your favorite like beer, cocktail, and just like your favorite drink of all time that's not alcohol?
my favorite beer would be Bud Light. I mean, it's just the easiest to go to.
Classic.
As far as liquor, I enjoy a good 7 and 7. Those
Oh.
I get
What's a 7 and 7?
7 Up and Seagram 7.
Were you being serious?
Yeah, I don't really know what it is.
Oh.
I've never had it. I don't.
It's good. Yeah, you have. We've been at the bar together and you've drank it.
Oh, oops.
Okay.
And then just non-alcoholic, if anything is, I'm just gonna go to it. It's chocolate milk.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Classic choices,
Yeah,
Jordan.
Chocolate milk.
He is a big chocolate milk man. Like
I never had
and not like chocolate milk that's already made in the gallon. Like I have to get a gallon of regular milk and chocolate syrup.
Oh, and you make your own.
Yes.
Homemade that shit.
Fair
You
enough.
control the syrup.
Yeah, I would say you control the chocolate to milk ratio. All right, Jordan, what's your favorite hobby?
My favorite hobby, I mean, because I'm not good enough, so I just call it a casual thing, would be golf, for sure.
I wasn't sure if it was going to be golf or video games.
I do enjoy some Call of Duty.
What is your favorite snack?
My favorite snack? I don't even know. I don't know.
I know. I'll tell you right now. It's either Chips Ahoy Classic Cookies or Kettle Corn Popcorn.
Yeah.
Ooh, kettle corn
Definitely
popcorn's good.
popcorn. Yeah, kettle corn specifically. Don't give me the butter.
Yeah, I love.
Who said no one ever?
Yeah.
I know, right? I don't like kettle corn.
I like kettle corn, but I'd rather have butter popcorn over
same,
kettle corn.
same.
No.
You're a weird
Where
breed,
you
Jordan.
guys are wrong there.
Okay, this one I'm excited for. If a movie was made of your life, what genre would it be, and who would play you? I already got mine. What I think my answer for you would be.
Ooh, tell us after, but let Jordan answer first.
Yeah, Jordan, answer first.
I would. Wow. It'd be a comedy
For sure. Same.
It would have to be. It'd be between, if I had a choice, it would be between Jason Segel. I love you, man. I mean, Will Ferrell would always do a better job if he was probably a little bit younger, but he's gotten older now. And then, who's the dude from Guardians in the Galaxy?
Oh, the one in
Parks and Rec.
Chris
Yes,
Pratt.
Chris Pratt, yes.
Okay,
Chris
so
Pratt kind of looks like you. I could see Chris Pratt, but I
think-
feel like you're funnier than Chris Pratt.
Wow, that's nice of you.
I would have said Seth Rogen.
Oh,
Seth Rogen would have been fun.
I feel like Seth Rogen, like personality-wise,
Yeah.
is so Jordan.
Yeah,
could
yeah,
see
yeah.
That
Yeah.
as soon as she sent me this earlier today, this list of questions, and I was reading through them, and immediately when I read that one, I was like, "Ooh, comedy, Seth Rogen,
I
100%."
could see that. I would not not take Seth Rogen.
Yeah, Seth Rogen is a good one. I'd say
Yeah.
out of everyone you just listed, Seth Rogen for sure.
He's got like the facial hair,
I like
just
Jason
like
Segel though too.
your personality.
Who's Jason Segel?
Yeah, Jason Segel's funny.
He's in
Yes,
I Love
Ma'am.
You, Man.
Or-
He's in
yeah.
How I Met Your Mother.
Have you ever seen How I Met Your Mother?
Oh.
What's his
Tall
name?
guy. He's
Oh my
also
God,
in
what's his
Forgetting
name?
Sarah Marshall.
Yes. Oh,
Forgetting
that is
Sarah
a good one.
Marshall.
I would say for sure Jason Segel or Seth Rogen. Okay, ready for the next one?
Yeah.
What's the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
I don't really know, honestly. I mean, I've had like alligator, frog legs, and all of that, but I don't
All
feel
of
like
that?
that's-
What else does that include?
Well, you know those crazy ones, but it's not really that crazy.
I haven't had neither one of those, so.
They offer them at like, you can find them in Michigan and stuff like that. You know, it's not that crazy, but it's not the strangest thing that I ever ate. But the craziest way I ate it was when we went shrimp boat fishing, and we caught them, popped their heads off,
And ate
they
it?
took them into the downstairs boiler, boiled them.
In the
they-
boat?
Yeah, and it took like 10 minutes, and they brought them out, and there was thousands of them, and you just ate them.
That's awesome,
That's
though.
crazy.
But that's, yeah.
Real quick, we're sorry if you can hear chewing in the background. Kelly's dog is here, Major, and he just really wants to chew on this Frisbee, and so we're really sorry if you hear it, but like that's what Major likes to do. So we're just here to make him happy, all right? So we're sorry if you hear it.
Yes. If he doesn't have the Frisbee, he's going to whine until he gets it, so.
We figured this would be better.
Yes. Yeah, we don't have our producer and executive producer today. We have my dog, Major, and Amelia's dogs, Vincent and Kona, in the room with us as
Yeah.
well. All right, Jordan, next. If you were famous, what would you be famous for?
I would hope it would be for something like acting or something like that. That would be
I could see that.
hopeful. So,
Do you think you'd be famous for a comedian or just like a comedy actor?
I've never tried stand up. I don't know if it would really work or not.
I think you'd be good at
I
stand-up.
feel like he'd be good too.
You're witty enough.
Yeah.
I thought about it one time when we went to a comedy club, and I just sat there the whole time, and it was intimidating because no one was really laughing at any of the jokes that were up there. So.
Wait, you were
No, we went to one.
Oh, I thought you
sat
meant
in
you
the
were
audience,
up. Okay.
Sat in the audience, and yeah, they were like having open mics, and you could
Yeah.
sign your name up. And
I feel like you would be good at that.
I
With
thought
the
about
right.
it. Like when I'm sitting there, I was like, oh, I could say that up there, and then it's like I can't really go up there. I don't know.
I feel
what
like
I'm doing.
he'd be good. He's just funny. I just think
Yeah.
he's really funny.
I think it has to be more like in the conversation, though.
Oh yeah.
Like on the
Yeah,
spot.
I feel like
you
on
know?
the spot you would get nervous. And
So it probably would be an actor.
Yeah, so
comedy
acting,
actor.
yeah.
So Seth Rogen again. Jeez, you're just like Seth Rogen's next. Oh gosh.
Okay, here's a good one. What TV sitcom family or group would you want to be a member of?
Sitcom family.
Or group, or like a
Like,
group of friends, or like a group. Just what like TV sitcom would you want to be a part of?
The Office. Easy.
I saw that coming.
Okay, Jordan,
Yeah.
what is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh.
And sing it for us. Just give us a little
preview.
snippet.
I'm not gonna give you a
Come
snippet
on.
of it.
I thought you couldn't think of it, and I was like,
but
I even know it.
It would have to be off the top of my head, something that I would know just if it popped up on the screen. It would be "It's All Right" by Darius Rucker.
Not at all.
Wait, what did you expect?
Well, I
Creed!
just heard.
Yes!
I mean, Creed is always something, but
You literally sang that in a Snapchat you sent me like today.
I mean, I
That
always,
or what he was singing earlier, "You're beautiful."
Yeah.
He sings that song all the time.
I 100%
James
thought you would
Blunt.
say Creed.
Or Simple Man.
Oh yeah.
But you're right. He does know all the words to that Darius Rucker song. So like that does make sense. But not what I thought.
I thought Creed
I'm
was...
thinking if I'm gonna, like actually try and sing it, that would be something.
Who
that
actually tries in karaoke?
I mean, if I was putting on a performance, it'd be Creed, like
Okay, fair enough.
because half of it's visual, you know.
Air guitar and drums. Okay, one last question for you, Jordan.
All right.
Answer wisely. Who is your favorite sister of Amelia's? And or brother? I'll give you a hint. There's one answer for both.
Have to be Sunny.
Oh!
He pled the fifth.
No, did you hear it? One answer for both.
One answer for both.
For sister and brother. There's one answer for both.
Sunny.
Kelly and Kevin.
Kevin. Good old Kev.
Good old kid.
No, it's definitely Sunny. It has
Fair
to
enough.
be.
You're just playing the safe card, but I appreciate
He's
that.
pleading the fifth.
So now that we got to know Jordan a little bit, I hope you all enjoyed. He will be with us the remainder of this episode, giving some little commentary.
Yeah, he's thrilled about it. So, should we open the wine now?
I think we should. I'm a little thirsty.
I am too. Do you want me to read it?
Yes. Tell them what we're drinking tonight.
Okay, today we're drinking Apothic Red.
Because the label has an A on it, and Amelia's hosting at her house tonight, so I felt like that was
in the addition.
in the addition, which
Yeah.
is their bar.
Our
At-home
bar is called the Addition, which also starts with an A.
So what better way to record than in an at-home bar, since we can't go to a real bar?
Yes, yes. So Apothic Red, inspired by Apotheca, a mysterious place where some of the earliest wine was blended and stored. Apothic Red is a bold red blend crafted with intrigue. Our winemaker masterfully creates a smooth blend where rich layers of dark fruit emerge, complemented by hints of mocha and vanilla.
Ooh.
Tasty. A long, smooth finish opens up your night to endless possibilities. Cheers to endless possibilities.
Tonight's podcast is going to be crazy.
It's about to get crazy. Let's open this.
Cheers.
I like it. It's good. It's a good run. Red.
It's not too bitter, but for people who like the bitter wines, it's got a little bit of
Yeah,
a
it's
kick.
not a sweet red.
No, it's definitely not a sweet, but it's not like a Shiraz where it's like
yeah.
I can't even
It's
handle
not like
this.
an overpowering.
It's the mocha and vanilla that really...
Jordan, do you want to do us the honors?
All right, so now that you guys have uncorked the wine, are you ready to uncork the crime?
Yes.
I
Great job.
think we are. Okay, so today's story starts with Giorgio Sodder, who immigrated to the U.S. from Italy in 1908 at the age of 13.
Oh.
He came over here with his older brother, who...
Not their parents?
Nope.
Oh,
He came over with his brother. I don't know how old his brother was, so...
okay.
But his brother actually, as soon as they cleared customs, ended up going right back home to Italy.
So he just dipped out on his brother?
He was 13.
And his parents didn't go with him?
Well, this was 1908, so I feel like there weren't really rules.
But why did he just dip out on his brother? I mean, you made it.
Well-
you made it to customs.
Well, so my next thing is that when he got here, he changed his name to George Sodder. So he went from Giorgio Sodder to George Sodder.
Mm-hmm.
And it says he never would talk about his past in Italy or why he left. So I'm assuming that's why his parents didn't come and was probably the reason his brother went back.
But that's just weird that, I mean, you got to customs.
Got all the
and
way through
just
into the
dipped
U.S.
out?
And then, yeah.
Okay.
So he ended up getting little work here and there, ended up working on the railroads in Pennsylvania. After that, he moved to West Virginia and started his own hauling company.
Okay.
So he eventually met a girl named Jennie Cipriani, who also immigrated from Italy with her family when she was young. They ended up getting married and settled down in Fayetteville, which in that area was another Italian immigrant community. So they were
Right.
with their likes.
Okay.
They had a 2-story timber frame house.
So
It
just
will
a
come into
normal
play
house?
later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So in 1923, they had their first child of 10 children. So his business that he started, the hauling company, it succeeded. And the family was known in the community to be one of the most respected middle-class families around.
Okay.
But George was very opinionated, didn't hold back, and had very strong opinions on things. One of them being the dictator of Italy. He hated the guy. So he talked a lot of shit about him. And the other people in the community
Oh, right. 'cause they're
completely
all-
disagreed with him. Yes. So they got into...
Why?
There were a lot of arguments with neighbors and others in the community about the dictator. He just didn't agree with the way he was, which probably is why he left.
Yeah, I was going to say, but you left, bro. Like, chill.
Well, he's really harboring that.
Yeah, he's really got
Anger.
some deep down resentment
Yes.
for this dictator.
So in 1943, the last child was born. It was a daughter that they named Sylvia. This same year, their second oldest son, Joe, went to serve in World War II.
Okay.
So he left home. He's overseas.
Right.
Fast forward to Christmas Eve of 1945. Joe is still
Overseas.
out of the house.
Right.
Yeah.
He's not home.
He's in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Their oldest daughter, Marion, who was 14, came home from work. She must have worked at like a grocery store, a toy store or something.
She was working at a young age.
Right. Back in those days, I guess you didn't really have to
This is
legally
1920.
do. Yeah.
I don't know.
1945.
Still
Well, Dad was working at what,
1945.
13? Yeah. So she brought home toys from work for the 3 youngest kids. There was Martha, who was 12, Jennie, who was 8, Betty, who was 5.
Okay.
So she brought toys home for the 3 daughters,
Cute.
her sisters.
Precious.
She said, "Fuck her brothers," because her brothers Maurice, who was 14, and Louis, who were 9, were still up as well.
So she was 14 and working, but her brother was also 14. He wasn't working. What the fuck?
Maybe he had a day job,
I wouldn't. Oh,
newspaper
true.
route. Who knows? So the Martha, Jennie, and Betty were so excited that they had new toys, so that they asked to stay up later. It's also Christmas Eve, so I guess they were probably like, "We don't want to go to bed."
Right.
So their mom told them that they can stay up as long as the 2 older boys were still awake, Maurice and Louis. So around 10 p.m., the mom went up, took Sylvia, who was 2 at the time, to bed, tucked her in, went to bed herself. The dad and the 2 oldest sons had worked all day, so they were already in bed. So there was John, who was 23, and George Jr., who was 16. So the only ones left up were Marion, Martha, Jennie, Betty, Maurice, and Louis. Fast forward to 12:30 at night, or in the morning, 12:30 a.m.
Yeah.
The mom, Jennie, woke up to the phone ringing. So she went downstairs to answer it.
Was it Santa?
It was a female.
Oh.
It was a female voice that she didn't recognize, and she was asking for a name that Jennie didn't recognize.
It's Mrs. Claus.
Creepy.
Right. So Jennie was like,
What was
"This
the
is."
name?
I looked
It
and
didn't
couldn't
tell
find the
you?
name that they asked for.
That's so creepy.
So Jennie said, like, "Hey, this is the wrong number. This isn't whoever you're looking for." The woman gave a weird laugh, hung up the phone.
Oh my god, I have chills.
Yes, weird. So before going back upstairs and going to bed, she noticed that the lights were still on downstairs and the shades to the windows were still open, which was one of the chores that the kids knew
To do
that if they went to bed after their parents, turn the lights off, shut the shades. So the mom thought it was weird, but she saw Marion sleeping on the couch and just assumed that the 3 younger kids,
Oh no.
the 3 younger daughters, went up to their room, which would have been in like the attic of the house, and went to bed. So she shut the curtains, turned the lights off, went to bed. Didn't think anything of it.
Oh no.
I mean, would you though? I would have assumed they also went to bed.
But if I would have got a creepy phone call like that, like I would have checked on all my kids because I would have been paranoid.
You don't. I
know
would
you
have
don't-
assumed it was
you
someone
don't-
drunk.
Right. You don't think about it because she was just like, you have the wrong number. I
Right.
would have been
And
like,
it's-
what the fuck? This is creepy.
It's a holiday, so like people are drinking more.
Yeah.
Like it was maybe some drunk girl
oh my
looking
gosh.
for. Yes.
I don't like this.
So Jennie went back to bed. That was at 12:30. Around 1 a.m., Jennie woke up again. She thought she heard something hitting the roof of the house and rolling off of the roof.
Santa, again.
That makes sense. So she kind of like listened to hear anything else, didn't hear anything, just thought, you know, not a big deal, went back to bed.
No.
1:30 a.m., half hour later, Jennie woke up again.
Oh.
Do you guys want to guess what woke her up this time?
A phone call? A noise? Her kid? I don't know. What?
Nothing you said was right, Jordan.
I would guess a scream. I don't know.
The smell of smoke. She woke up, ran downstairs, found George's office on fire around where the telephone and fuse box would have been in his office there at the time.
Right.
So she ran back upstairs, woke up her husband and the 2 older boys who had went to bed earlier in the night. She grabbed Sylvia, the 2-year-old, sleeping, ran back downstairs, woke up Marion, who was sleeping on the couch, and ran outside.
She didn't go to check on her other...
George and the sons supposedly did. It is said that George and the older sons yelled up the stairs
Oh my God.
to the younger kids who were supposed to be sleeping in the attic. But at that time, the flames had completely like engulfed that stairwell. So they tried to yell up there. They couldn't hear anything. Obviously, there's a fire going on. Everyone's screaming. There's flames. It's loud. Whatever. So they didn't hear any responses. They ran outside. So the mom tried to call 911 on the house phone, and the house phone wasn't working. Like, there was no...
Like, the line was cut.
Yes.
Okay.
So she told Marion, the daughter who was sleeping on the couch, to run over to the nearest neighbors and call 911. In the meantime, George was trying to save his kids upstairs.
Thank you. At least someone was.
So first, he tried to climb up the house to get to the attic window.
Right.
Tried to find the ladder. Where it always sits, the ladder wasn't there. Him and his sons could not find the ladder anywhere. So his next idea was to get the trucks, his work trucks sitting in the driveway, and drive them like up towards the house and try to use them as like props to jump up to the window.
Right.
Trucks wouldn't start.
Huh?
Ran all day while they were working that day before. Earlier that day before. The trucks worked just fine. They couldn't get the trucks to work.
Oh, gosh.
There was apparently, I saw in one article too, there was a, like a barrel of water that would have been outside that could have been used to help like diffuse some of the flames, but had been frozen over.
So at this point, is it like the whole house has inflamed?
I mean, this is where the timber house comes into play. Yes, it's
Oh.
spreading, and it's spreading fast.
Okay.
So while George is trying to save his children, Marion is running to the neighbors to call.
How far away is the neighbors? Did they
I don't know.
did they have a lot of land?
It never really said. I don't think
Okay.
they had a lot of land because it wasn't like they were farmers.
Yeah.
And I feel like back in those days, if you had land, you were probably a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
So she ran to her neighbors. Neighbors tried to call 911, couldn't get a hold of the operator.
What?
Apparently,
1945.
You're right.
yes. Apparently, at the same time, someone was driving by, saw the house on fire. They tried to stop at a nearby tavern bar and tried to call 911. Also couldn't get through to a operator. Now it seems sketchy.
Well, it's also Christmas Day.
Christmas Eve. Oh, well, technically now it's Christmas Day,
Christmas
yes.
Day.
So the guy that drove by actually drove into town and tracked down the fire chief himself.
Wow, kudos to him.
Right. So he tracked down the fire chief. And at that point, it was called a phone tree system to where like the fire department wasn't sitting at the fire department house. So he got a hold of the fire chief who had to call one of the firefighters, who then had to call another firefighter, who then had to call another firefighter to say like, hey, we got to go meet at the station.
Right.
So obviously this takes some time. So eventually the fire department got there, but not until 8 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
So by this time the fire had been going for 6.5 hours.
Oh my. So the house has got to be gone.
Oh,
I mean, if it's made out of timber.
yes.
Oh my gosh. 8 a.m.
Yeah. So part
Yeah,
of
people are already opening presents at that
Yeah.
point.
Oh shit! Yeah, I never thought of that. When I was like doing these notes, I kept forgetting it was Christmas.
The firefighters just said, all right, we'll be there after our kids open up.
Oh my god, I hope not.
Well, part of it was they were low on manpower. Was their reason for being late
Well,
because
it's
they had to do the
Christmas.
call a person instead
Well,
of
yeah,
everyone
and
being
it's
at the
Christmas
Yep.
Eve, Christmas Day.
But also because there were men still over serving in the war, so they were short on people as it was because the men were
Right.
drafted over to serve.
Oh god. Oh my god.
So the fire chief's name was F.J. Morris. So we'll talk about Morris quite a bit going forward. So he apparently was not able to drive the fire truck, as
Why?
the chief firefighter could not drive the fire truck. So another reason that they said they were so late was because he had to wait for someone to get there.
Was he drunk and he couldn't drive?
Oh, yeah.
It was Christmas Eve.
No, I don't. From what I read, it made it seem like he didn't know how to drive the fire truck.
How do you not know how to drive a fire truck?
No, I think it was intoxicated.
Yeah, I guess now that you say that, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
he's intoxicated for sure.
So he had to wait for one of the, instead of all of them meeting at the house and him driving the fire truck, he had to wait for someone to come to the firehouse, drive the fire truck. So that,
Okay.
obviously took some time.
Sketchy still.
So at that point, the whole house had burned down and collapsed, and it was
Presumed.
that the other 5 children had died in the fire.
Oh no.
So around 10 a.m., a search was done through the ashes and rubble, and Chief Morris, fire chief, we're just going to call him Morris from here on out, told George and Jennie that no bones were found in the remains.
No bones.
No human bones. So there was a rumor that a few bone fragments and organs were found. But that's body organs. That just, I mean, probably the body was burnt and it just didn't get to the organs before the fire was put out. But that the fire department never told the family about it.
Oh, no.
Morris suggested that the fire was so hot that it burned up entire bodies. So the 5 kids left inside. And told the family, don't touch anything on the site. Don't touch any of the remains until the fire marshal office could come out and do a more thorough search. So the Sodders waited 5 days, and after that, couldn't handle the sight of it anymore. Bulldozed 5 feet of dirt over everything. And
Family did?
yeah.
How quickly did he tell the Sodder family that there was no bone remains?
5 days.
That morning. No, the morning of the search, he said there are no bone fragments. And
So
but
then,
to not
that is
touch
very early. That's what.
yes, but to not touch the site until they could get the fire marshal out to do a very thorough search.
And they waited 5 days and they were like, fuck this, and bulldozed it? You just ruined any chance at your kids' bones? Like
4 days. They waited
Well,
4
I
days.
mean,
Okay,
they
either way, I mean, you ruined any chance to prove that your kids were actually
Well, if
burned
anything,
in that fire.
if anything, it would just be underneath.
Why would it be underneath?
I mean, I don't see.
I think when they say bulldoze, they just dump dirt. I don't think they actually
might have.
bulldoze the site. Maybe.
Either way, why are you making it harder?
Well, they couldn't.
What is hard though about it, either your kid did die in it, or you would probably find your kid somewhere outside of the remains within that 5 days. So it's like,
Wouldn't you want to
probably-
know for sure if your kid died in that fire or not?
Let's get to it. So at that point, the fire was said to be caused by faulty wiring, and the matter was pretty much put to bed. Like, that's it, done and over with.
Right.
About a year or two later, the parents and the remaining siblings started to, get past the mourning process, get their lives together. They started thinking about everything and questioning everything from that night.
But in the meantime, they just accepted that their children had burned in the fire.
Well, I think they just assumed that and they were just going through the mourning process. Regardless, their children weren't there. So they were going through that mourning process. I mean, that's your youngest kids, too.
Right.
Some of them. So the first thing that raised red flags was the fact that it was determined to be faulty wiring. Apparently, they had Christmas lights up on the house. The lights stayed on, lit up through like half of the fire.
Oh my gosh.
So if it was a faulty wiring issue, those lights would have went off
Yep.
prior to the fire.
Right.
Also, the whole electrical system in the house had been replaced not too long before by George himself, but he had a local electrician come in and approve it before he said it was good to go.
Right.
Not long after that, a traveler had stopped by seeking work and stopped by George's house, which I don't know if he was referred to George by somebody or why he ended up there.
Mm-hmm.
But he ended up there asking for work, and George refused work to him. And somehow this guy that came by got sight of the fuse box and told George, your fuse box will cause a fire someday.
A random traveler.
After the electrical was just replaced, this random traveler showed up and said, your fuse box is going to cause a fire someday. Another thing that stuck out to the family, they found the ladder that they couldn't find the night of the fire
Right.
at the bottom of an embankment 75 feet away from the house. So somebody had moved it. A telephone repairman came to the house and said that the phone line to the house had not been burned through in the fire. So when Marion couldn't call 911, you would have assumed it was because of the fire got to the telephone wires. The telephone wire had actually been cut 15 feet up and 2 feet out from the house.
15 feet up?
Holy shit.
And 2 feet out. So somebody had to climb up there and physically cut that.
Like on the telephone pole.
Or connecting.
2 feet off the house.
Yeah.
So when it burnt down, like you would have been able to see the other half of the cut wire. You know what I mean? You would have been able to tell it wasn't burnt to that spot and it broke. You would have been able to tell it was cut. So somebody went up and cut the wire. It was not burned through, it was cut.
Okay.
So at that time, a neighbor came forward and said that they had seen someone stealing a block and tackle around the time of the fire.
What is that?
Which is like a pulley system
Oh, okay.
to lift heavy objects.
Okay.
So the police...
Like, did they put it in their car or
Right.
what?
How big is it?
yeah. Need details. So the police tracked down who they thought it was, questioned him. He admitted to stealing it and to cutting the telephone wire line, but that he thought it was a power line.
Why would he be cutting a power line?
Right. So it doesn't quite make sense. Why would you, if you're stealing this from outside of the house, why are you cutting
That
the
has
power
nothing
line?
to do with the power line.
Right. Why would you cut the power line or the telephone? The telephone might make more sense because if you see them stealing it, you can't call 911 and say, hey, someone's stealing my shit.
Right.
Why would you cut the power line though?
So he just straight up was like, oh yeah, that was me.
Yeah,
Could've
he
just
said,
lied about it.
right. He said, yes, I stole it, but I didn't have anything to do with the fire. I thought it was a power line. Weird thing, no records identifying who this man was.
What?
So there's like no police record because I don't know why I didn't get in trouble for like attempt of theft or theft as it was.
Yeah, seriously,
there
did
are
he return the pulley system?
There are no records of who this man was.
This
So-
is so...
The next point that the family started thinking about, the truck's not starting. So there was rumor that the same guy who broke in messed with the trucks so that if the family saw him stealing it, they couldn't chase him
Right.
down.
Right.
Others said that maybe George and his sons flooded the engines, trying to start the trucks in such a rush when the house was on fire. But
Possible, but
also sketchy.
how old were they?
It was the older son, so they were 23 and
Yeah.
what is it, 16?
Yeah.
Likely, but
Old enough to know.
Yeah.
Old enough to know.
And especially if they're working with their dad in this hauling company, you definitely know,
how to start a car.
Yes, run and start a truck.
Right.
Yes. So the weirdest thing that they started thinking about was how there was no bodies or bones found. So apparently, after the fire, the parents went back to the site. Many of like household appliances, so I'm assuming like oven or stove, refrigerator. So many of the appliances were still found semi-intact and recognizable. So you could tell like, hey, that's a stove, that's a
right.
fridge. So why are there
No
appliances
bones.
standing,
Yeah.
but no bones?
Yeah.
That has to go through flesh and then bone, but my refrigerator is still recognizable.
Right.
There was another house fire on the same time as
Oh.
this one. I don't know if it was ever considered that they were related to each other. None of my research ever showed up. All 7 people in this fire died, so I'm sure it was just like a closed case house fire. Everyone died, no big deal. Remains of all 7 of these people were found, though.
So
Oh no.
Same situation, same timber house.
they were never there.
7 bodies were found. 7 remains. I shouldn't say full bodies. So the mom got to the point where she was like overthinking this and like, you know, questioning everything to where I don't know the details, so don't ask me, started burning piles of animal bones to
Oh.
see
She's smart.
where she got them, how she got them, why, I don't know. But she started burning them to see if she could completely get the bones to burn away, and she never could.
Well, I just looked it up because I was curious. So for bones to burn, it has to be 1400 to 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. But like a stove, has to be
1100.
has to be 1100 degrees Fahrenheit.
So less.
Mm-hmm.
So less temperature for the stove to burn.
But
And there was a stove left and no bodies.
right. But where was this office? Was it upstairs by their
Downstairs.
So it would have been closer to so it would have been hotter by the stove
Right.
and that than upstairs.
3 stories. Well, I mean, eventually the house would have collapsed and all the fire would have been.
But still.
But
I mean,
yes.
the brothers left the house saying that the stairwell to their bedroom was inflamed, but it originally started downstairs closer to the oven and stove, which would have been less. So, yeah.
So the stove definitely should have been, if there are no bodies, there should definitely not be a stove.
Right.
So they contacted a local crematorium and asked about, how the bodies would burn, at what temperature, what length of time.
Right.
He said that bones would remain even after being burned at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours.
Oh, jeez.
Granted, the fire burnt for like more
6
than 2 hours,
Yeah.
but at 2,000 degrees, bones would still remain at that point.
That's some hot timber.
Yes, very hot timber. So a couple other weird things started coming to light. Someone called in and said that they drove by the house that night and saw people throwing balls of fire at the house. And after the snow melted, because it's Christmas, Sylvia, the 2-year-old, found a small, hard, dark green rubber ball in the brush that George said looked like a pineapple bomb. And I looked that up, and it's like a grenade.
Yeah. I was assuming bouncy ball style or something.
But
So-
Jennie woke up, heard something hit the roof and roll off.
Oh, yeah. But also,
Oh.
why didn't these people call the police? It's Christmas Eve, and you saw someone throwing
Fireballs.
firebombs at someone's house on
Right.
Christmas Eve night at it had to have been late at night when they were sleeping, and you just kept on driving like it was nothing?
They're involved.
They are. That's fucked up.
Wait, time out. I feel like there is 20 people involved with this murder right now.
Sylvia's the 2-year-old daughter.
Yes.
Yes, I know,
No,
but
but
there's-
I'm saying that the amount of the
Weird things happening.
Yes.
So there's someone stealing a pulley system.
Yes. That's why it's weird. So, in another weird thing, in the weeks before the fire, and this came out after the fire, the older sons that got out, the 2 older ones that were already in bed before everything happened,
Right.
said that they noticed an unfamiliar car sitting along the highway in town watching the children come and go from school.
Is there
Sketch.
school off of the highway?
Well, I think by highway they just mean like a main road back in the
Oh, okay.
States.
But also, I just feel like there's so many weird things happening and nobody did anything. Like, Jennie woke up 3 fucking times.
It gets weirder. So at this point, sightings of the children started coming in.
Oh, no.
The missing children.
I don't like this. This creeps me out.
Just
I'm not
wait.
going to be able to sleep tonight.
So a neighbor who was watching the fire from the road, so like, when it started, everyone runs outside. She came outside and said that she noticed an unfamiliar car drive by. So like, I'm assuming that means just like not a normal neighbor during all of it, and thought she saw one of the kids in the back seat.
It could have been any kid. It's late at night. That's a
Right. That's why
a
like some of these are
far-fetched-
kind of like, A waitress at a rest stop between Fayetteville and Charleston said that she served all of the children breakfast the next morning.
Oh my God, Christmas Day?
So it would have been Christmas morning with 2 Italian adults. It doesn't say man or female, but it said 2 Italian adults. They were in an Italian community.
Right.
So after these 2 sightings, and after the Sodders heard about it, they hired a PI
That was the only 2 sightings?
at first.
Oh, God.
So these first 2 sightings came in, and the parents hired a private investigator.
Right.
So one of the men that was on the coroner's jury that had ruled the fire an accident with faulty wiring
Right.
had been to the Sodders' house before.
Why?
So in October before the fire, so the October before Christmas in 1945, an insurance salesman stopped by.
Why is there so many random people stopping by at this house?
20 goddamn people involved in this. I swear to
I
God.
know. So this guy stopped by and tried to sell George Sodder insurance. He was turned down. George was like, no, don't want it. Move on. Don't want you here.
Home insurance?
It just says insurance salesman.
Okay.
Home or life at this
Life
point.
insurance,
Either one
Doesn't
could
matter,
be.
yeah.
Yeah. Either one's sketchy. So he told him no. And in his anger, this guy said to George, your house will go up in smoke and your children are going to be destroyed. This is the same guy that was on the coroner's jury that said the house was ruled an accident.
Okay, well, we have our number one suspect here.
Number one suspect.
That's sketchy.
Yes.
What? And nobody thought, everybody just let him rule it an accident?
Well, nobody knew until this PI was involved. So this was after it was already ruled an accident, faulty wiring.
Okay.
This was the PI.
PIs are always cracking the case.
They are.
The PI also discovered that, we're going back to Morris, fire chief,
I don't like him.
discovered that there were rumors that he found a heart in the aftermath of the fire and buried it in a metal box.
What?
So they tracked Morris down. They were like, yo, what the fuck?
A human heart
That's what
in
he
a
said.
metal box on their property?
It doesn't specify.
Oh, where?
Let me get to it.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's on the property. But it's also weird because... So they said it was rumor he found a heart, put it in a metal box, buried it. So the PI and George Sodder himself confronted Morris. And they were like, what the fuck, man? Did you
Where's
find a
the
heart?
heart?
What's going on? Where's this at? So Morris was like, I'll take you to where the heart is.
Oh my gosh.
They took it, buried it up, and George Sodder, the dad, was like, nope, we're taking this to a
Right.
funeral director, morgue.
Autopsy.
Yes. And it was discovered that it was actually beef liver that had no contact with fire whatsoever. So it was not even a
Beef
human
liver?
heart. So supposedly Morris then said, I buried this hoping you would find it, assume your children died here, and let it go. Why would you put it in a metal box then?
I'm sorry. I'm not following. What makes you think that they would dig this up and not test it to make sure that it was their children? He just thought like, oh yeah, I want you to find this so you can finally be at peace that your children are dead. Like, you're not going to double check that that's not your kid's heart?
But it's in a metal box. Like, clearly something...
Who is this guy?
Do they
The
have
chief
DNA?
police.
Do they have DNA?
Well, they were able to test that it was
It's a beef liver.
not a heart.
Yeah, but I'm saying, do they have the kid's DNA?
Oh.
Because
Oh, I don't
everything's
know.
burned to the ground.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's a
I
beef
mean,
liver anyway.
but
Yeah,
I don't
but I'm
think
just
I don't
saying,
know
like,
if they
could
have.
test it as a person and be like, this is a real liver, but it's,
I don't know
Yes.
if they have their kids' DNA, but they can probably use their parents' DNA, but probably not back then.
I don't think. Yeah, this is 1940s.
1945.
But either way,
I
they
don't
were
think
able to determine that it was beef liver, not a human heart.
Yeah. So, like, even if it
Jesus.
wasn't a human
What?
heart, it's...
Why? I don't
regardless.
understand. He was like, "Oh yeah, I did find a heart. Oh yeah, actually it's beef liver. Yeah, I did this for you." Like,
But it's
what?
in a metal box. What body was going to burn down and then the heart fell into a metal box and was buried? Like,
Oh, he thought.
he put it in,
Oh
so when
my-
they
this
unburied it,
doesn't
it was
make
in a metal box.
sense.
Yes.
It wasn't until 1953 until they first had like concrete evidence of like DNA.
DNA testing.
Testing.
Yeah.
So even if it was a human heart at that point, they probably couldn't...
No, they wouldn't be able to. But still,
You can
they'd
tell the
know.
difference between beef.
No, I'm saying if
Yeah.
it was a human heart, would they have been able to determine, yes, it was one of your kids? They wouldn't have had DNA to test it against.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what I said. They
It's
could
not
probably.
a terrible idea, but you might as well have just buried it in a locker, not in a locker box.
But what I said is that they could have taken the DNA from the mom and the dad and figured that it would have been. I've been watching a lot of CSI, so they would have been able to take the DNA from the mom and the dad to determine that that was their,
Right.
form of DNA.
Oh,
but,
yes.
But that's now.
But they couldn't have even done that then either.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, I know.
Yes. At this point, George, the dad, was pissed and was like, all right, I'm going to take it upon myself and I'm going to find my children myself because
Fuck yeah,
no one's
George.
helping me out. So he happened to come across pictures of a girl in a magazine for a ballet school in New York City that resembled his daughter. So George was
How
like,
did he come across that?
I don't know how he came across it, but he did not even hesitate and hopped in his car and
Oh.
went to New York.
Oh my gosh.
Went to where this school was and demanded to see this girl. Obviously was denied because it's creepy.
Yeah.
So he was not able to see her face to face.
But also, you're gonna do whatever you can, like if that's.
If it's a chance that's my daughter, I'm going to go.
You're not even gonna stop to think that. Oh, that might be a little creepy.
Right, might be weird that I do this, but I'm going to do it anyway.
And that was all over the time where they have had like multiple sightings.
after. It was after all the time they had those sightings, right?
This is after the waitress said they came here, and after there are more sightings that will come about, though.
Yeah.
So at this point, George and his wife were convinced that the kids
still
did not die in the fire.
Right.
They're convinced. So they tried to get the FBI in to help and investigate, and the FBI was pretty much like, this is a local issue. It's out of our jurisdiction. Like,
Oh my god.
not our problem.
But clearly Morris is a dickhead. Like, he buried beef liver hoping that they would find it and think that it's their kid's heart.
Yes.
They need
To be fair, the FBI did end up coming in at one point, investigating it as a possible kidnapping. But after so many like false leads and, no successful leads, they kind of closed the case,
Gotta
moved
give
on.
up at that point.
Yeah, like they can only spend so much time on. It sounds bad, but there are bigger problems. So flash forward a couple of years. We're now in August of 1949. So 4 years, coming up on 4 years of the fire itself.
Okay.
George convinced a pathologist to do a search of the soil at the site again. He didn't trust what came back. He said, do it again.
Oh, fuck yeah.
At this point, several small bones were found, which were taken to a specialist and determined to be human vertebrae, all from the same person. So a bunch of bones were found from one person. Mind you, they're looking for 5 different bodies.
Only one.
Yes.
Okay.
So they took these to a specialist. It was determined to be from someone from the ages of 16 to 17.
Which wouldn't be their kids?
The youngest person that made it out of the house, other than Sylvia, who was 2, was Marion, who was 14. So at this point, the youngest child in the house was, I think, 12.
I think you said an 8-year-old, but somewhere around there.
Or, I mean, sorry, the oldest. The oldest in the house that was burnt in the fire would have been 12.
Oh, okay.
These were determined to be from 16 to 17. And even if they were from, they said, I read in one article that it could be possible that it could be up to like 23 years. So it could be potentially from 16 to 23 years old. This vertebrae could be from.
And this was on their property that their house was on?
Yes. They also showed no signs of being exposed to fire, and that he was shocked, the specialist was shocked, that they were the only bones found, because after he was told the story, he was like, oh no, like this fire should have left full skeletons of every child in this fire.
But who are these bones to?
Some people speculate that when he bulldozed over the lot, that he brought in dirt from, that somehow was from a local cemetery and brought in these bones, or again, that they were planted to make him think this is your
Morris.
family here. It was never, Morris is sketchy as shit. It was never determined like where these bones exactly came from, and they were returned to the family, and like the location of these bones at this point is unknown.
They never determined who these bones were because they couldn't in 1940.
No. So they definitely weren't from anyone in the fire. So the family still did not give up hope. They printed out flyers, and the mom, Jennie, put a billboard at the side of the house. So they put up a billboard, and they were like offering like money for anything leading to solving where their kids were.
Right.
Because at this point, they did not believe that their children were dead in this fire. They thought there was more foul play. So there were more sightings after this billboard went up. So there was a woman who ran a hotel. She called in and said she saw them about a week after the fire. They came in with a man and a woman, both appeared to be Italian, around midnight the night of the fire, booked a room, left early the next morning. And in one article I read where she like tried to like talk to the kids, like just being a friendly person.
Yeah.
And the kids started talking back, and the man with them abruptly started talking in Italian, like harshly to the kids, and the kids never said a word after that.
Did the kids speak Italian?
I'm sure the parents probably taught them. They were in an Italy or Italian community. I'm sure I'm sure they were raised speaking both English and Italian.
That's terrifying. Like, why would you believe? Oh.
But at that point, when you just think it's a dad and his kids, and he's like,
and
hey,
he had 5 kids with him.
She just said that she saw the kids. So, but at this point, it's also a couple years later. So you
get those people who are making up stories for money,
or like maybe did see a family of 5 plus a mom and dad, and just yes. So there's also a woman in St. Louis who said one of the daughters, Martha, who would have been, I think, the oldest at the time, that died in the fire, the oldest in the fire, was being held at a convent.
Huh?
Was being held at a convent in St. Louis.
What's that?
Like a nun's,
Yeah.
like
I think
a
that's- yeah.
religious convent.
Oh, just Martha.
Yes, just Martha. And the dad tried to go again, find her, and denied access, couldn't. Another woman in Houston wrote to the family because they had their
Right.
information
They had shit
everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah, any information, contact us. She wrote a letter saying she had met one of the sons who said his name was Lewis, told her who he really was. So like, hey, my name's so-and-so, but I'm actually Lewis from this fire.
Right.
I am now here. He was drunk. And he was with someone that she assumed was his brother. So the next day, she contacted police who contacted George.
Mm-hmm.
And George was unable to speak to her directly. I don't know if it was through the police wouldn't let him or...
Maybe she didn't want to.
Yes.
That's intimidating.
So the police got in touch with her again, tracked down the two guys that she had met, and they denied being the missing sons. But at this point, they're sober. So if they're in a situation where they're not supposed to be telling people this, or if they're in any situation where they don't want their family to know where they are.
I mean,
when you
did
get
they
drunk-
resemble? How many years later is this?
It doesn't say.
Did
This
they
is after 1949. So this is at least three or 4 years
I mean,
later.
did they resemble them? They just said, oh, they denied it. Like, did they look like them? I don't understand.
They just said it's not us. I don't think the police had the jurisdiction to search into it.
This is so frustrating.
Yes. So that same year, the Sodder parents, so George and Jennie, received a letter addressed to Jennie. It was postmarked from Central City, Kentucky, but did not have a return address. It included a picture of a man around the age of 30, which strongly resembled Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have been in his 30s around this time.
Right.
So it had to have been many years later.
Yeah. Had to have been like more than 10 years later, right?
Oh, yes. These are sporadic sightings. Yes.
These are just all the sightings you're listing now.
Yes, these are all the ones that are documented to date. So Lewis was 9 at this time of the fire. So
Lewis
at this
was
point,
9 at the fire?
yes, Lewis was 9 years old at the time of the fire.
Also, yeah, this is a long time after.
So if he would have been 30 at this time, it would have been minimum.
And he may not even know at that point. He may not even remember his...
9? You don't think you'd remember at
If
9?
you go through something traumatic like that, you may not remember.
Block it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but well, we'll see. Okay, so it included the picture of a man that looked like Lewis. On the back of the picture, this is what it said: Lewis Sodder, period. I love brother Frankie, period. LLIL boys, period. A90132 or 35.
What?
So they added the picture that was sent to them onto the billboard of what Lewis would have looked like at his age. But it gets weird because the parents hired another PI to investigate this picture that was sent to them.
A different PI?
A different one.
Oh.
So he left to go find, he was obviously going to start in Central City, Kentucky, where the postmark came from. Never heard from the PI again. He never reported back to them. Could never get a hold of him again after that day.
But he also could have been like faking it for money.
Yeah.
Who?
The PI.
I mean,
Right?
yes, that's
It's
true.
possible. But I mean,
But with
it's
all
still
the other
sketchy.
situations with this,
Yes.
yeah. So after that, no other letters came, no other credible sightings, no other reaching out. So in the year of 1969, George, the dad, died.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how.
Either way,
I know.
like he doesn't even get to find out what happened.
To half of his
So
kids.
that's just so terrible. They hired 2 PIs.
Never got an answer.
The guy just dipped out with the money and was like, "Yeah, I'm not giving you shit."
That or something worse happened, that maybe he did find
he
Lewis
did
and
yeah.
so he died. The younger siblings and the mom kept searching. Jennie stayed in the family home that was built after the first house built down. She wore black every day for the rest of her life in mourning for her lost children. And she literally spent like majority of her time tending the garden that was built on the site where the house originally burned down, that they bulldozed to build a garden.
Oh my God, that's so sad.
Memorial of her family.
Very sad.
She died 20 years later in 1989.
So she lived a long, healthy
20 years
life.
later, yes. The remaining children at this point finally took down the billboard, which still stood.
Oh my gosh.
The mom would not let that bitch go.
Well, clearly.
So the children continued to investigate and publicize their missing siblings like nobody in this family was giving this shit up. Like, we're going to talk about it. We're going to keep.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
So it came out that the children's belief, and this came out after the parents died, so I don't know if this is like the parents' belief passed down to the kids, or if like this was finally them being able to voice their own opinions without like upsetting their families. So that the children believed that the Sicilian mafia was trying to get money from George, and the children were taken by somebody who knew about the planned arson and was trying to save the kids. And at that point, like, took them back to Italy where they'd be safe, because even if they got taken back to their family, the odds of this happening again if you're involved with a mafia are... But why not take Marion, who's sleeping on the couch? Why would you go all the way up to the attic?
Past everyone's bedroom.
Right. Take the youngest kids and then leave. Which I guess makes sense because they're the youngest, save them. But like, why not take Marion, who's sleeping on the couch in the living room? It has to be somewhere near the front door on your way out.
So was he still in contact with anyone in his family in Italy?
George? No, he wouldn't talk about it at all.
And Jennie? No. So did he have any ties with this mafia?
Well, if they thought he owed him money, the mafia's going to get their money, or they're going to take your kids.
Okay. But like when they had that time where they were questioning everything, that never came up for them.
No, because I think they might have been in on it, or it would have been covered up enough by the mafia.
You think the family's in on it?
No, just like the mafia or like the Italian immigrants as a whole, because like a lot of it comes back to like George always fighting people about the dictator that he hated.
Right.
So like him talking shit about him pissed other people off. And if the mafia, I mean, they don't give a fuck.
It just wouldn't make sense, like if they were trying to prove something or do something, why they would skip. Why wouldn't they just take Marion, who's right there in the living room, instead of going past Marion, past the parents, past the other two brothers, past Sylvia to get these
The
5
ones
kids
upstairs.
in the attic?
Unless they were
basically?
like, he was thinking they're young enough where I can manipulate their minds. Like Marion might be too old for me to kidnap and tell her it's okay, come with me.
But also, they could have fallen asleep in the living room with Marion too.
They would have found bones. Or when the mom ran downstairs and woke up Marion, they would have... No,
Well,
they could not have fallen
I'm
asleep
saying
down
if
there.
they were taken, they could have been taken.
I
from the living
100%
room.
think they were taken.
Oh, yeah.
There were no bones found. That doesn't make sense. Like Jordan said earlier, if he was 30, and why didn't he say? Because he's trying to protect his family at that point. I know I have remaining siblings. I know maybe my parents are still alive. I don't want it to come back to them and them be in harm's way. And then they just started their own life.
And also, like we talked about in the Ed Gein episode, abuse. Like, you don't... he was taken at what, age 9? Like,
Oh, yeah. At that point, you're going to submit.
Yeah, you're
submissive.
getting abused, like, verbally. So you speaking out, you know what's going to happen. And so
Right.
you don't think of it because you think that something bad is going to happen.
And you don't want it to happen to your family.
Right.
So as of 2015...
Oh, my gosh.
And I tried to look her up and I couldn't find anything. Sylvia was the last one remaining alive
Oh, God.
that we know of, technically. Of the siblings I got out of the house the night of the fire and were accounted for, as of 2015, she was the last one still alive.
But she's still the youngest.
Yes.
So
Well, yeah. Well, that's what, and I tried to like look up her name and like search an obituary, and I really couldn't find anything. So I don't know if like, and I don't know what state she was in at the time, so I can't really. So, but at this time, like she said, so she had I believe it was her that had a daughter, and like, I mean, even her daughter was like set on. We're gonna like
that's good,
the entire
though.
family was like convinced that they did not die in this fire. Like they were all very into we have to find justice.
oh my God, that's almost like,
So Amelia, what do you think happened?
I don't even know. Like at first I thought the family was in on it. I thought that they made up the story.
The mom and dad?
Mhm.
Oh my God, I never thought that.
I thought that they made up the story. That this
First, yeah.
that this random traveler, it didn't make sense about that, and that they moved this ladder. Like none of that made sense. I thought the family was in on it.
Oh no, I think they were set up.
But when you continued, like when they were like, "Oh, I want to know about this, and that," then I'm like, "Okay, well, I don't think they're in on it." But before you said that, I thought the family was in on it. Also, question: what happened to Joe in World War II?
I think he was the one that like he didn't really like to talk about it. But then again, he wasn't there, so I wouldn't like to talk about it either. Like I don't fucking know anything, man. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I was
But
gone.
it's just
So I think he was one
the
of them
whole
that.
family is set on figuring this out, and he's just like, I don't know, I wasn't there, so who fucking knows? I mean,
He also served in World War II, so he's probably fucked up as
Yeah.
it is.
but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I think
I
the
really
kids were
thought-
taken.
But I mean,
How do you not find bodies or bones? No remains
you don't think that somebody took the bones?
for
I think
4
that
or
this
5
Morris,
bodies.
I think that this Morris guy did. I mean,
But-
he took a beef liver to
I know,
try
but,
and
like-
make it seem like it was someone's heart.
The mom and dad were there. You would have seen someone carry off bones.
I know, but
that
it-
many.
I know, but he could have saw him then and acted like he didn't, and then when it was 5 days later and they decided to bulldoze it over in between that time, what if he went back and got it? That's what I'm thinking.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know.
Why
It
would-
just doesn't make sense.
Why would they say during the first search no bones were found then?
Well, I mean, why did he bury a beef liver?
Because he was in on it. The kids were actually kidnapped. He was in on it. He was trying to help the family as much as he could because he knew he fucked up and
But what's
helped
the
these
connection?
kids escape.
What's the connection with him?
The mafia.
He's connected to the mafia?
Oh, the mafia will pay him off.
But he also wasn't able to drive the fire truck over there that early.
Yeah.
So was he involved
Yes, I think
as
he.
it was going on and wasn't able to get over there until he said he was, and then he said he
Yeah.
had to wait for somebody.
No, I think that was a lie to let the fire burn longer so
That's what
they
I'm
could.
saying.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought you
like,
were
I'm
saying like
he
no,
was
he's not
there
involved
and he's like, I can't drive
Okay.
the fire truck over there because he wasn't actually there.
because he wanted it to burn a little longer
Yes.
so that they could use the excuse that no, the fire burnt the bodies to pieces.
And the
Or-
coroner
Because
was
there's
paid
no way
off.
that he couldn't get over there in time with the fire truck.
Your fire
And
chief.
then he
You can't drive the
buries
fire truck.
beef liver.
Yes,
Those
in a
are-
box. In
In
a
a
box
metal
though.
box.
That's
What's
what
in the
gets me.
box?
Frosted Flakes. Okay, does the random stop bys not stick out
Yes.
to you guys? That's the biggest thing. When the
Yeah,
one
that's
guy
what I had
came,
in my notes. Random
Yes.
traveler. I feel like that's a made-up story by
Well,
someone.
well, that was from George himself.
I just.
Oh my God, so was George in on it? The insurance salesman that came by says, your house will go up in smoke and your children are going to be destroyed. The electrician that came by said, your fuse box will cause a fire someday. And when Jennie woke up and ran down to George's office, the fire had started where the fuse and electric box was.
And they did not question these people.
Well, the one guy was on the jury.
He was paid off.
Oh,
Oh,
100%.
yeah.
He said, because he was turned down by George. Like, George was like, I don't want your insurance. Like, piss off.
It just
And
doesn't.
he was like,
it
"Oh,
just
your
doesn't
house
make
is
sense, and
gonna
it
go
doesn't make sense that. I don't think they died in that fire,
I
but
don't
I
think so
think
either.
they died not long after.
I don't think so.
Maybe like a couple years. They didn't
I think they
live
went back
until
to Italy. I think the mafia took him back to Italy. It was like, fuck, like, I think they tried to kill.
Why? I mean, like, why?
Why, I don't know.
Like, what? did he take him back to his family in Italy, or just take him back to Italy and like never even knew about the, like he went back to Italy not knowing he had family in Italy?
Good question. I don't know if they knew that they had family there or not.
I feel like
They were probably
taken,
kidnapped,
yes,
beaten to the point where they were like, if you ever fucking say anything, we will kill the remaining of your family.
I can't
What's
picture
the
them.
purpose of kidnapping them then?
I don't think they expected the rest of the family to get out.
I
I think
can't.
they expected the fire to go and kill everyone in the house. Why they took the younger ones, I don't know.
I just can't picture them.
They have a little bit of a heart,
I just can't picture them like
but not the 2-year-old.
allowing them to live at that point. Like it sounds so.
Because I think at
terrible.
that point they're young enough where you can manipulate them and say your parents were bad. We saved you and we helped you. And at that age,
Yeah, but you're taking 5 kids. That's a lot. For the mafia. I'm just thinking for the mafia, that's a lot.
but there's no bones. Like that's what gets me. There were no bones found, and there should have been bones. Like there was a fire not far before theirs or long after. Either way, 7 people died in this fire. Same type of house, not same type of situation, but house fire.
And they never opened the case back up?
They found all 7. They found pieces of all 7 bodies, and the
Yeah.
other one.
I don't know.
I think we all have the same idea of what happened with the mafia. I just still doesn't explain.
The mafia was involved to some extent.
For sure, I think so.
I don't think they kept these kids like their whole life, but I think that they were involved to some extent, like passed them off to someone or something. I think Morris was in on it. I think that whole fire department was in on it.
Oh, for sure.
The
fire department
coroner,
was so
jury,
on
the
it.
court, like everything. I think they were all in on it. But like, it just blows my mind that they they had to have lived a long time, because I mean, at that point, 31, he was spotted and like.
Or sent that letter, you mean?
Well, that and like he
Oh,
had,
when
he had
that lady
said
who
that.
said-
Yeah, he had said that to that lady. Like,
But like,
it just,
I mean,
I
what if,
can't imagine them living like that long, like longer than that, and
But
not.
what if
Whoever
that,
whoever took them or whoever had control over them, they had to have lived longer than them. So at some point they had to have, I don't know.
oh, at that point, like, you're a young single guy, you might say anything to get laid. What if he was just saying that, like, hey, I'm this missing kid? But why would he
Yeah.
know about that in Houston? I don't know. There's so much that like doesn't add up. And
So many. They never
the
opened
picture
the
too,
case
like
again?
no, there's never been enough. You have to have enough relevant evidence to reopen it, and nothing was ever relevant enough.
But I don't know. There's just so many unanswered questions.
Another unsolved. Jordan, what's your theory? What do you think happened?
I agree with the mafia theory. I do
think we
think
can all
that
agree the
they
mafia was definitely
were
involved.
not burned in the fire. I mean, there's no way you just go with that amount of bones just missing from it. Can't explain the 16 to 23-year-old bones that were found at one point, but I do know that Morrison.
I think they were replaced.
Morrison, that fuckhead, had something to do
Well,
with it.
Morrison placed the fake heart,
In a
aka
metal
beef
box.
liver. I think he also placed the vertebrae. I think he was in on that, thinking like, all right, maybe if I put some bones this time because the heart didn't fucking work, maybe if I
Yeah.
put some bones in here.
I don't know.
Least
He's
we
a
could
police
do-
chief. He has has access to that shit. Could have easily placed it.
I
Least
don't
they
know.
could do was remove his liver and just call it good.
I don't know why he didn't get in any type of trouble for.
He's police chief. Who's gonna get him in trouble?
I know.
He's like literally head of the police. Who's gonna get him in trouble?
I know, but it's just unfair.
I think it was mafia related 100%. Why they didn't take the rest of the kids, or at least the 2-year-old,
right.
doesn't make sense to me. Why they go all the way up to the attic and then not
Take the rest.
the rest on the way down? Or like Marianne sleeping on the couch in the living room. But I definitely don't think they died in that fire. I think there's some sketchy shit that went happen. As far as that, I don't know. I really think the picture in the letter sent. I started thinking about it because in the letter that Lewis apparently sent to his parents, where it says like A109
Yeah, what did all that mean?
32 or 35, I think he was trying to give coordinates.
Ooh.
I think he was trying to give coordinates of where he is. Maybe not coordinates, but he was trying to give some sort of, maybe he was kidnapped and held somewhere and he was trying to like give some sort of description of where he was. I don't know. I think he was trying to key code where he was and no one.
What was the rest?
That like LLIL. I love
Yeah.
Brother Frankie. I don't know. Like no one even like, as far as I could tell, tried to like decipher what it could mean. Even if it was
So
false, like what does it
weird.
mean? I don't know.
It's so weird.
I think it was mafia though.
That's a crazy story. So
Yeah. So that's the Sodder children disappearance.
yeah, that's a good one. I thought I heard about it, but I did not. I didn't know anything about it.
Really?
Yeah.
As I was researching, I was like, oh yes, I remember this. Oh, if I remember.
Oh no, I
this.
don't remember any of it.
Oh, good. I'm glad then.
Yeah.
It's a good story then. Okay, so don't forget, we're gonna do our book review on May 25th. Is when the episode will come out on Mr. Nobody by Catherine Stedman. So if you haven't read it yet or you're halfway through, finish it up, go pick it up, read it with us. If you're local and need to borrow the book, we have it and you can borrow it. We will be talking about that. So if you have any opinions, questions, things you want us to point out when we do the review, let us know. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. Send it to us in our email, Instagram, whatever.
Yep,
You know the deal.
uncorkedcrime.com. Again, Kelly Papirski was our first winner of Uncorked Crime
chicken
goodies.
dinner.
So we will be getting you your goodies. Thank you all for your reviews, comments,
Subscribes,
yeah,
everything.
ratings, all of it. We
Feedback.
appreciate you guys.
All of it. Thank you, Jordan, for participating in episode 5 of Uncorked Crime. What did you think?
Thank you for having me. Obviously, hope I filled enough shoes of Megan's there. I just pretty much listened the entire time. You guys probably know a little bit more about me that I wouldn't like to know, but it's fine. I hope I did my job.
You did. Thank
Thanks,
you so
J-Dog.
much. So cheers to episode 5, and cheers to the Sodder kids, and cheers to Jordan.